Hello, everybody, this is Purge bringing you guys a Crystal Maiden replay commentary. I hope you guys enjoy. I play Crystal Maiden pretty often. If we take a look at the Dota buff stuff of Crystal Maiden here. First things first, let's look at the overview. Crystal Maiden is one of the most played heroes in the entire game, 20th popularity this week. I think she has one of the highest played rates of all heroes. Most played, if we look at most played, it's mostly carries and stuff, and Lena's sometimes very popular, and Earthshaker's I guess a little higher, but in the past CM was way up there, but I guess she's maybe dropped off a little bit. She's all the way down here now. That's this month. Let's look at this patch. How about 6.4 Purge is in the lead again, but CM has actually dropped a decent amount. I think before maybe she was played a bit more. Still, I guess about the same, but still a lot of games for a support hero. Her win rate's pretty high. It's at about, what, 56%? This is really high. Anything over 50 is really good, so her win rate's really high. This is generally because of the fact that her teamfight ultimate is very strong. It does a lot of damage in teamfights. If she doesn't get stunned, she kind of wins teamfights. So I think that's why her win rate's really high. Because you're talking about all players, right? Like low-level players are too bad to stop the ultimate in a lot of cases. Her most popular ability build is pretty close to being accurate, in my opinion. But I'll talk about the differences there. And her most common build items are Tranquils, Blink, Aghanim's, Glimmer Cape, all really good items on her. So not too surprising to see that she's actually winning a lot. It's very good versus PL, carries, 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 and this is all pretty accurate. That's because of her second skill, Frostbite, which we'll talk about later. Things that silence her, teamfight ultimates, things like that are what are good against her. All these heroes are very good against her. Clockwork is good at solo killing her. Visage kills her with the birds. Phoenix doesn't really care about mini stuns. Magnus can teamfight control you, stop your ultimate. Earth Spirit has very easy ways to stop you from channeling your ultimate. So all annoying heroes to play against. So let us hop into the game then. This is a solo queue of mine. I think this is the most recent game I played, so I was at 52.25 MMR here. And I was by far the highest MMR on my team, I think, in the game. I think their team had an average MMR that was it was about the same as mine, obviously, as our teams, but I think their median was lower. Does that make sense? If you understand median, that would make sense. But most of you guys probably don't understand that because it's complicated and difficult. Basically, their numbers were closer to their average, whereas ours were a little bit lower because I had like a high MMR to offset my teams. So it doesn't make that big of a difference. It basically means that every single one of my players is maybe like 50 MMR lower than theirs on average, with the exception of me, and I was quite a bit higher. So when I'm in a position like that, I want to pick somebody that's really high impact in most cases. I don't really know the order of my picking. I think I was second to last year. I'm not really sure why I necessarily picked Crystal Maiden. She's pretty good against Undying. If I hop into the player perspective here. If we look at the heroes, she's not that good against Undying is what I meant. Because her attack speed's pretty low. She can't really kill zombies that rapidly. She's pretty good against SF because you can frostbite SF, but when SF gets BKB, then it becomes harder. She's pretty good against Lone Druid because I can frostbite either the bear or Lone Druid, and the frostbite cooldown was buffed recently. It's now a 6-second cooldown at level 4, which 3 seconds of disable. So frostbite's really good against carries, and that's the main reason that Crystal Maiden had big win rates versus carries, because if they don't have BKB, you have a guaranteed way to make them stop attacking for 3 seconds every 6 seconds. That's amazing. And that she has been buffed twice in that area. Frostbite didn't used to scale. I believe in the past it used to be like 10 seconds at all levels, with Nova being 15. But then they started buffing it so that if you do level it up, it scales better and better and better. So it's definitely worth leveling up now, in my opinion, because it is a 4 ability point for a 3-second disable. That's pretty good. It's like a roar every 3 seconds if your opponent doesn't have BKB. Maybe not Aurora, obviously, because that does AoE components, but these are the pretty typical item builds. I actually got lucky here. My other support was willing to purchase, I think, a sentry, or he gave me the smoke. Normally, I either sacrifice not having 2 ironwood branches here, or I do end up getting a smoke, is what I traded off. And the way that I base this is, if there's a hero in the enemy mid lane that I can kill at level 1, then I go for, or not level 1, but like before the 2-minute mark, then I grab a smoke. The reason is because you can jungle very rapidly with Crystal Maiden. This is completely based off your second skill, Frostbite. It lasts much, much longer on neutral creeps than it does on heroes. So it does up to 1,000 magic damage to neutral creeps. And that means that you can actually jungle very rapidly with this hero with the benefit of clarity potions and your arcane aura. Now some of you guys might be asking, do I get mangoes on this hero? I think it's okay to get a mango on this hero because she does have 2 abilities in the early game that she can cast, so sometimes that difference in mana is enough to get a kill. I'm just waiting to see where the lanes are going to be before I start jungling here. Always start at the large camp. If you start at this camp, there's pretty much no way that you'll get contested. Nobody will steal your experience. I should have pulled this creep out a little bit longer before I attacked it, because now it's going to aggro those other ones. So slight mistake there, but the important part... excuse me. The important part is that I'm killing them before the 53-second mark, which is when I'm going to pull the camp back and stack. It's very, very important that you do this. If you don't stack this camp, you're decreasing your efficiency, and I think I messed this one up. See, oh, I actually got lucky. That almost didn't stack. That was really dangerous looking. I maybe should have used a clarity potion earlier, but I'm sorry, I'm still talking about mangoes, but I should have used a clarity potion earlier, but because there were range creeps, I was worried about it getting denied when I pulled, so I waited to kill the second camp before I started my clarity. So now what you do, if you are going to go gank the mid lane, you should have started your clarity about this point. Clarities have been buffed recently, by the way. They give you 170 mana instead of the mango's 150. So clarities are much better on CM in the early game. If you're talking about like, I just feel like it's not worth buying a mango on CM because there's already a lot of other stuff you have to buy. But this is the gank that I like doing when I'm playing a CM and I'm against a solo mid that actually is very gankable. And SF is like the hero that I always look for. If there's an SF and I can pick a Crystal Maiden, I don't need to zone the offlane hero, then I go for it. And I only skill my second point when I know that I have a guaranteed kill. I didn't even have to frostbite here, so I was able to save a lot of mana as well. And I also got some nice experience as well. I'm almost level 3 from this gank. The only downside to doing that gank, you can't really do it against a Queen of Pain usually because she can blink away in most cases. You basically have to do it against a hero that's non-evasive. But if they're non-evasive, if they don't have a blink, then you can probably get away with it. And then I move back in the jungle immediately because I need to get level 3 because I need to get my arcane aura. Now I maybe shouldn't have skilled Nova there because maybe I could have gotten away without using Nova, but the important part is that I got my first 2 skills, and now I have Arcane Aura. And this is pretty much the power curve of Crystal Maiden. This is why Crystal Maiden is such a good support. She's maybe not top tier right now, but why she's situationally useful and why she was so popular in the past. It's because you can hit level 2 really fast in the jungle. If you don't go for a gank like against a mid hero, you should grab your aura. And right off the bat, you are getting 2 more mana per second on your hero, and you're also giving everyone else on your team an extra 1 mana, which they can use for spamming and all that stuff. And the other part that's really good about her is that once you're 3 or 2, if you gank like I did, for example, is that you have 2 disables at level 2, which is amazing. Pretty obviously dead here. It's pretty clear that they had an observer ward because they definitely decayed me from vision range, and they shifted over in time. I was hoping to set up a gank there, but obviously they were prepared for that, and the problem with CM is that her movement speed is really low and her stats are very low as well. So I did end up dying there, but I did get the kill in the mid lane. I couldn't believe that Ember Spirit died here. That was unfortunate, but I can maybe basically just start ganking. If you look at the scope of the map right now, we're getting wrecked, and that's because they have a really good aggressive tri-lane. We have an Earthshaker that's versus a Lone Druid, which is not a matchup Earthshaker could win. Look at that, 8 last hits versus 19 and 5. Like, Lone Druid is one of the best 1v1 heroes, especially on flat, like open ground like that, and a lane that isn't the mid lane. So very likely that Lone Druid is just going to own that Earthshaker. This means that we're kind of doing okay mid, but Ember Spirit recently died, and we're doing bad on the bot lane because the Razors died, excuse me, a couple times, and we're losing top lane. So we're kind of losing all of our lanes, which puts you in a weird place. I think the Earth Spirit, or the Earthshaker went the right build here, I think. To be more relevant in contesting last hits, it's important that you get Enchant Totem. So what I need to do to win this game is I need to move around the map and I need to get kills. And that's the only way I'm going to be able to do it. Excuse me. I ate a bagel like right before I started this, and now it's making me burp like crazy. This did not look like a very good fight, but I showed up for it anyways. At this point, the Ember Spirit should have ran, I think, after the initial engagement. I mean, there's no way that I'm going to be able to guarantee my ally gets that kill here. I can do some harass, of course, to the SF, but if anything, I just wasted my HP here. And this is kind of the stage of the game where I was like, we are getting wrecked. Like, we are actually getting wrecked this game. This game is going to be really hard. What the hell do I do to solve the problem? And a lot of players, I think, would give up at this point. But I kind of learned not to do that just by playing more and more games. I really wish that I got smoked by the Rubik there. Even though my HP is low, I could have still contributed. I've almost got enough mana for 1 spell, and that's pretty useful. So luckily the Rubik actually ganked really well this game. I think he did a really nice job. He's positioning himself correctly. You usually want to come from the top side, like from up here, and like where he's standing. You usually want to come from there instead of going through the lane, like what I'm doing. I told the Rubik to go here because I figured he could catch him, and he was able to. I did frostbite there, but I really didn't need to. And I took a little damage as well, but I was going to be okay. So we got another kill on the mid lane. That's pretty good. I'm at level 4 and I'm planning to roam a lot, so I grabbed a second level of Arcane Aura. I don't always do this, but some games I do, just because the efficiency point's pretty good, because it gives you an extra 1 mana per second. If you plan to roam a lot, I think it's really good to get a second level. If you're playing more passive and maybe just farming, it might be better just to have 1 point. But skill points on Crystal Maiden are actually extremely valuable because she has so many skills that she wants to level up. Ideally, you'd have all of your skills leveled up, but the same problem is that you also don't have a lot of HP. Now, we're setting up a gank on the Lone Druid here. He's a really easy kill to get if you bring both your supports over. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to bring the... Oh, I'm sorry, that's my Skype. Even had the Ember Spear shift over, which is useful.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Sorry about that. But I felt pretty comfortable going for that gank because if it's a Lone Druid, right? He can't throw a nuke. All he can do is auto attack you. Worst case, I frostbite the bear. So I felt like that wasn't that big of a deal. I could definitely attempt that gank even if my HP was low. So it's fine for me to be out on the map for that. If we went to the safe lane, for example, and we tried to fight their tri lane, we would lose. And that's part of the reason that I haven't gone there yet. It sucks for the Razor because he's going to keep feeding. I mean, part of that's maybe his fault, but the guy is going to keep feeding in that tri lane. The Rubik's been dewarding the other supports. That's why that guy's upset. He's actually not that rich. He's actually just moving around and completely predicting observer wards. Maybe he's, I don't know, maybe he's cheating, who knows, but probably not. But roaming is really important when you're playing a support. It is like, we'll see that one, he didn't even need a sentry for that one. I'm shifting over here because there's a high chance that they'll shift to contest. And they didn't, so. We're going to try to set up another gank on the mid lane. I'm going to move around, because if you have downtime, you can always move around. And this is the place you want to stand, either here or on the high ground. And he moved up a little bit too far. I'll frostbite as well for 150 damage. And we get the last hit. So another gank on the Shadow Fiend that decreases Shadow Fiend's farm. Shadow Fiend has a lot of last hits, but he's now died 3 times, I think. His net worth is still pretty high, but we're keeping it a bit in check. Is that, oh yeah, 3 deaths on Shadow Fiend. He's got 2 kills and 1 assist. And immediately you go for another shift. Now usually you're going to max out Nova when you're playing Crystal Maiden. They're really not reacting very well to our potential ganks. Ember Spirit did a nice job ganking here as well, I think. A little worried about the Earthshaker here dying, so I used my Frostbite as well. And now I pick up level 6. I'm level 6 at 8 minutes. Razor's dead again, but again, that's 3 heroes sitting in his lane, contesting him, and they're decreasing his farm. But now we're getting a farmed Earthshaker, we're getting a farmed Ember Spirit, I'm getting levels, and now I'm going to hide and wait for somebody to come back. Predicting your opponents when you're playing a ganking style is really important. You can't necessarily just react based on what you can always see. Like, for example, I know Lone Druid is going to go somewhere to farm in 10 seconds. He's either going to TP to the top lane, or he's going to move to the jungle and start here. Those are the 2 predictions. It's much more likely that he goes to the jungle, but I don't really feel safe going that deep into the jungle by myself. I maybe should have grabbed my ultimate at level 6. Sometimes it's worth it. I think most of the time I don't get it at level 6, but in most cases it's okay to do that. I'm just going to wait and hide in the trees here, maybe wait for an ally to come. It actually looks like we're going to kill the Undying for once. And now all this gold advantage that we got from the early game... Oh, did I TP to this? No, I didn't. I think that was somebody else TPing back. I actually am showing on the Lone Druid right now. This is a little dangerous. I felt like I had to frostbite the bear there because I didn't think we were going to kill the Lone Druid in time. He's got about 500 HP or something like that. Of course, one of the benefits of the hero is that I have a lot of spells very often. I can Nova both, and now I can right-click the main guy a lot. It does very pathetic damage, but it does something. And I have to worry about being rooted myself. The bear probably won't kill me, but if I can keep him trapped, we're in a good spot. There's a lot of stuff going on. I was like spam asking for my allies to TP top. You know how that goes. Meme it up. Still level 6 here though. And I had just enough for my frostbite and gave him the right click with that. So now again, frostbite does 150 damage for 1 skill point. That's really high. And it only costs 115 mana, and it's a 9-second cooldown. Like, that is why CM is so strong. Most supports do not have 2 nuking disables in the early game. If you look at Rubik, he has a nuke and he has a disable. Only one of them does damage, and only one of them does utility. Well, obviously you can reduce damage with Fade Bolt, but that's not the reason people use this skill, right? Like, with those 2 abilities on a support, you have to move around the map. That's why we saw Ogre be really popular recently, because he was the same. He had 2 disables, but he was much better than CM because he had HP regen, he had tons of armor, he had lots of base HP. It was like, why would you pick CM when you could pick Ogre? There are some reasons to pick CM now, like you can jungle, stuff like that. I thought that guy was dead, so I didn't TP here. But I really should have TP'd earlier. At this point, he was just solo. I got a little unlucky there with my ultimate. Didn't do very much damage to the Undying, but it wasn't too unexpected. I honestly should have TP'd a lot earlier there. I definitely could have saved that guy, or at least maybe turn to kill. I mean, the Undying hasn't died yet. He's 4-0-6, so getting a kill on that guy would be pretty big. So I wasted my ultimate there. They did buff it recently. The cooldown is lower. It's at 90 seconds at level 1 instead of 150. So that was a nice little change. And if you're in the jungle, just do a little bit of jungling here. 1 frostbite gets you a neutral creep. That's 70 gold. That's a little bit of levels. Remember how I kind of played the early game, though? I think it's really important to point this out because a lot of CMs play the early game wrong. A lot of CMs. You have to start in the jungle. You should be able to hit level 2 a little bit after the 1 minute mark, consistently. A little bit of a frostbite here. You should be able to hit level 2 a little bit after the 1 minute mark. If you don't, you're not playing CM right. Again, if you need to zone the offlane, CM's not the hero for you. CM is more of like a jungler roamer. So if you need to pick a zoner, I wouldn't pick CM. She's not good for that. Unless you start in the jungle, get level 2, and then you zone a lot with frostbite because then you have lots of mana from Arcane Aura. That's the only case where I would maybe say, okay, it's fine to zone. So if you're playing the jungle roaming style, you should hit level 2 right after 1 minute. If you don't, you're completely playing CM wrong, and you are not taking advantage of her advantages. And you have to do that, because if you don't, she's a low HP hero, she has low stat gain, and her damage is good but mediocre. Unless you have your ultimate, basically. So you have to get those early advantages. Take that early level 2, do a gank or zone an offlaner, use the mana, zone an opponent, get a kill. All that stuff is really important when you're playing CM. You have to be active when you play this hero. If you're not, you're playing it wrong. Now, because I was a part of so many kills, I said I'm actually going to get a Midas this game. I don't necessarily recommend this if you guys don't feel comfortable on the hero. If you don't feel comfortable on the hero, it's probably better not to get the Midas. But because my MMR was much higher than my allies this game, I felt like this was the Midas game that I needed. It was a nice ultimate by the Rubik there. I don't know if it's going to work, though. Oh, they do actually get him. That was a really big kill. TPing to go try to help. I'm just going to kill these zombies here.
What did you have?
The Rubik did get picked off. If he would have nova, or if he would have nuked me there, I probably would have died. It would have forced out my ultimate at least. But I'm pretty close to the Midas. I could sit around and maybe prepare for a team fight, but it's a little easier just to go and gank the top lane. Now, another thing you have to really be careful of when you're playing CM is check your mana levels. Do your math. 160 plus 115 is 275. And with 200 on top of that, I can actually cast all 3 of my abilities. So sometimes having 2 Ironwood branches makes a huge difference on a hero like CM. So I'm just going to sit top and wait for the Lone Druid to show. When the Lone Druid shows, we can maybe go for a kill. We did just see him in that jungle, but I think that was a bug of the replay. That wasn't, yeah, we actually can't see him in game. It's a replay bug there. But it's worth sitting up here in my opinion. I could also smoke through. I could back up with the Earthshaker and maybe smoke through. This guy was like really deep here. And because he was so deep, I decided to run past the creep wave to get vision that I was here. I thought that was okay. But usually you don't want to run past the creep wave to let them know that you're here. It's better if you play it safe instead. But since I am past the creep wave now I can hide. And with that said, I again show on the creep wave. Like, showing is so important when you're playing ganking. If I moved to the top lane just now and I started hitting creeps with the Earthshaker, then there's no way that Lone Druid would ever come into the lane. He would say, oh, there's 2 heroes there, they can kill me, I'm going to stay in the jungle. It's all about vision, basically, when you're ganking. So I'm trying to limit the amount of times that I know for sure that my opponents can see me. My ultimate did a lot there. She said it. Another reason that I think I picked CM this game is I looked at their draft and I said, how many stuns do these guys have? They have a Yule's potential on Shadow Fiend, they have a Root from Lone Druid, and they have a Lina stun, or maybe Yule's from Lina. That's it. That's almost nothing. And that's very, very easy to keep track of in fights. So as soon as I saw the Light Strike Array by Lina miss, I said, oh, Lina's Light Strike Array missed. This means that I can pretty much ulti as long as I want to. And I was able to do that, and it does a lot of damage. And don't be afraid to use it. You should be using that ability a lot in the early game. Even if you only need 200 damage, it's worth using in my opinion. That's a really big kill. Rubik played honestly very good this game. I think this game was won by... Well, you know, it was pretty much a team effort. I think Razor did bad early, but he came back a little bit and everybody else played really well, I think. We could maybe dive this, I'm thinking about it, but... Luckily, she missed the Light Strike Array. This should provide a kill. Pretty easy kill on the Lone Druid there. Bear, that is. He's got a blink already.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
The Earthshaker played really well as well. That guy was going up in the MMR, I think. Obviously, it was because the game was well won. But, so yeah, I've got Midas now. I bought a Magic Wand as well. I think getting a full Magic Wand is sometimes really needed. I was hoping he would commit a little harder to me there. Oh, he actually did have Eels, so that is my death. And then I'll buy out before I die. That was a little sloppy there. If I had a bit more mana, I maybe could have frostbite him and guaranteed the kill, but with Undyne showing vision over there and that stuff actually getting out of range pretty fast, I got wrecked, which is okay. Gale kind of made a lot of mistakes here. I guess we have pretty good heroes to kill him, but... I also got more levels of Arcane Aura. I don't always do this, but if I'm super active in the mid game and I'm finding that I have lower mana, then I will grab more points in that. That solo kill is really big. You saw it yesterday if you watched my Earthshaker video. If an Earthshaker is ever able to solo kill a core, then things are getting kind of out of control. And it's something that you definitely really want to do if you can, if you're support like that. But I know that my Arcane Aura is really helping the Ember Spirit. I'm sure it's really helping the Razor, and definitely helping the Earthshaker and the Rubik. We have basically 5 heroes that actually really rely on their mana pools, so completely good game for CM. They have low stuns, like I said, and all that good stuff. Now, rather than getting the 4th point in Arcane Aura, I opted for the Frostbite here. I usually don't do like a mix of these two skills, but I felt like a bit more damage would be better here because I have a Midas, I have good gold. The main thing that I use Arcane Aura is as a crutch for having low int pool. Like, if I don't have a lot of int pool, or like if I don't have a big max mana pool, then I'll sometimes get more points of Arcane Aura to offset that. But at this point I was like, I think I need more I need damage more right now than I need mana. And sometimes changing up your build like that is fine, in my opinion. But I definitely do want to max out Frostbite early this game because of the amount of heroes that it counters, and also because I'm going to have a lot of farm. Because I have been doing pretty well. I'm 3, 2, and 9 as a roaming support. Our game is in control completely. We got a lot of good ganks off. We killed the Lone Druid a bunch of times, killed SF a bunch of times. PL has been dealt with by my team members. I wasn't really a part of that, but we've had some good fights as well, and I got my Midas. So the game outset is looking really good at this point. And that was all because of roaming. Remember how bad it looked early? Like, we killed the SF a couple times, and then we started killing Lone Druid, and we started forcing them to TP off their lane, which allowed Razor to do better in his lane and maybe get some solo kills. Well, look at the Ember. He's doing really good this game, 8-4 and 4. Honestly, my allies played really good here. But I'm going to smoke an approach because I wanted to get up closer, and I felt like they were spotting us. So I put a sentry down to make sure they don't have an obs ward. And now we're just waiting for somebody to come up a bit too far, and then we can initiate on them. So I'm going to approach from the side if possible. Kind of wanted to go in the SF here, but then we saw the Lone Druid top. I thought about maybe going on Lone Druid instead, but...
Got a light?
That was a bad idea. I killed the Lina, but that was way too greedy. She ended up wanding and it healed like a huge percentage of her HP. So that was a mistake. I don't know why they're calling GG, they just had like a good fight. Oh, he easily could have killed that guy. Oh, Shadowfiend got Earthshaker. That's too bad. They maybe could have killed that bear, but it's pretty dangerous. Yeah, especially with that point there. So that was just overly greedy by me. I usually buy the point booster first, by the way. I don't like getting the Ogre Club first. The only reason I did buy this was because I was dying in the top lane that one time. So usually you'll go for point booster instead. And I'm queuing up a BKB here because, again, they have very few disables. So I think, like, if I'm magic immune, I can probably do a lot of damage with my ultimate. I have grabbed my second point here. This is maybe a mistake because the mana cost is so high. If you look at how much mana I only have 637 mana. And the mana cost is 400, which is huge. I believe we knew they were Roshin here, or at least we thought they were Roshin, so we smoked over to try to get there. Ooh, that was... I almost cast on that. If your smoke doesn't break, you know it's an illusion. That's important to remember. Looks like their tomb ran out. That was a really good fight for us. Like, that was actually an insanely good fight. Important things I did there. I probably should have put an observer ward down on here. I'll show you. I probably should put an observer ward down here, or maybe up here before I started my freezing field. I did put a sentry down because I knew they had some invis stuff. There's a Glimmer Cape on the Lina, for example. I think that would have made a big difference. If I didn't have the sentry down, they might have lived. But my ultimate position was pretty good. I don't want to just ulti right here. It's important that I ulti here instead, because it still catches most of the pit. It definitely catches the entrance. And if they want to fight, they have to run through it, and then they're slowed and they take damage. So by being here, if they didn't have an observer ward scouting me, it was impossible for them to stop it unless the Lina guessed where I was based on seeing the curvature of the circle, basically. She could have guessed that I was standing here-ish and then maybe landed a stun. But as long as the Lina didn't stun me there, my ulti was going to get fully channeled, and that was going to be a good team fight. So all important things that I was doing as a support: observer wards, sentry wards, all that stuff. So now I have 2,000 gold. We had a really good team fight, so I changed up my item build. If you're losing, I think it's better to go for a BKB maybe, because it's better. It's better like instantly winning you a fight, which gets you gold. But if we're winning, I think you can be greedier on damage and less defensive with your item purchases. And this is why I change my item build sometimes while I'm playing. I'll say like, oh, I'm getting a BKB, and then all of a sudden I don't get a BKB. I think that's kind of okay. Adapting is always important. Don't be so rigid. Always adapt if it's the right thing to do. But that also doesn't mean that you shouldn't like change things up as soon as you slightly start winning. It's important to read the game correctly, basically. But because I won that fight really well, I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna get an Aghs really fast. Because it's gonna increase your damage a lot. It basically gives you an extra level of your ultimate. Puts you from the previous level ultimate to the next level ultimate. So if I grab it now, it's like having a level 3 freezing field. If I level up again at 16, then it's like having a level 4 freezing field. So the damage goes massively up, and I think it also gets buffed for slow or something. How does, oops. Slow is applied on all enemies in the radius, even if they aren't hit by an explosion. Last 1 second. It's definitely a good skill. It's been buffed and buffed and buffed, and it's less reliable. It's more reliable than it used to be, so that part's good. That was a huge dunk. Really good heals by SF there. I don't have a huge amount of mana here, so this looks kind of tough, but... should have used that a little earlier, but I got pretty lucky on the explosions there. They like hit everybody that I needed to immediately.
Double damage.
But I was thinking about using it, but I didn't feel like it was going to catch anybody, but I should have casted it right away. It would have been worth it. And again, power leveling as I can. I basically started that fight by only having about this much mana, but then I was able to use my wand. My Nova was a little bad. It only hit the Lina there. I think that could have been better. But luckily I got to the fight more or less just in time to clean up. I didn't really deserve those kills, but it's okay. We won the fight. I think we did lose the Ember Spirit there. Did he buy back? He did actually buy back. So. One cool thing you can do as Ember Spirit before you die is put a Remnant down, and then when you buy back, you can jump back to the Remnant. So it's kind of like Weaver. It's really good. But got the Aghs coming. This does two things. First of all, my HP is much higher, which on CM I definitely want. And the other cool part is that it's more mana pool, and also it makes my ultimate a lot better. So even if they do want to kill me when I'm ulting, they pretty much have to stun me now, because no matter what, my ultimate will be channeled. So increases damage and slow. Does 50%? Yeah, 50% slow instead of 30, which is a huge difference. That's like a free Rod of Atos in an AoE. Really, really powerful. Keep an eye on this ward. This one's really big. I usually don't lane ward here unless they still have a tier 1. Because this shows that if somebody TPs to the tier 1 tower and moves into our jungle, like let's say the creep wave is... I'm going to have to use camera here. Let's assume that our creep wave is here, right? If our creep wave is here, and we don't have any creeps in this area, and somebody TPs and moves into our jungle this way, then we won't be able to see it. But if you put a lane ward down, this is going to notice anybody farming here, anybody teleporting to the lane, anybody walking through the lane into our jungle. So it's basically a jungle protection thing. It's really important that you have that at sometimes, especially in the early game if you have a squishy carry. When I'm playing support, if I have a Spectre or something like that, like something really late that's not very strong early, I always put a lane ward down to help protect against ganks on them. It's really important that you do this. So I am ready to blow somebody up since I have an invis here. Can just initiate and cast my ultimate most likely. They may have spotted me grabbing the invis in the bot lane. It's kind of what it looks like. I kind of want to cast on this guy, but being able to kill him is very unlikely. So instead I said screw it, I'm just going to go Midas something because I've been waiting too long to Midas. Again, Midas is a gold gain item, but it's also a level gain item. Levels are also very important on this hero, like I said. The magic point is when you basically start getting stat points on the hero, because then it's easier and easier to cast all your spells. And it's okay to farm their jungle. This is a little dangerous because they could very easily come from north of me and kill me without me seeing it. But I feel pretty comfortable. And now you get the item that really matters on CM, and that is Glimmer Cape. It's not really something you can buy early game because of the amount that it costs. In terms of mana usage, it costs about 130 mana to use it now. CM can't really afford that. You've been seeing me having mana problems all game. But if you can get to a point where your mana pool is good, and you can ultimate and cast your spells and Glimmer Cape, then you're going to have a really good team fight. And that's what I need to do. And the cool part about Glimmer Cape is, again, they have very few stuns. They have pretty good AoE magic damage. And if I'm able to use Glimmer Cape while I ultimate, then they might not even be able to use their single target stuns. So it'll stop things like Yules from being able to catch me. And Glimmer Cape's also just great for ally use and stuff like that. It's just one of the best late game support items. It's okay sometimes early mid if your hero has a mana pool that can support it. Winter Wyvern is a really good example of a hero that's happy to rush the item. But if you're playing a support like Crystal Maiden, you absolutely can't get it early because your mana costs are too high in most cases. So it does combo very, very effectively with your ultimate, but I would not recommend getting it rapidly if I was playing a CM in the early game. If you don't have like a soul ring or something, there's like no way that you can afford a Glimmer Cape. And then you're just spending all this money on extra stuff. It's better off that you buy a Force Staff or work on your Aghanim Scepter and then consider maybe it's time to get a Glimmer Cape. Now again, I really don't like having to buy a BKB on this hero. It doesn't really increase your damage by a huge amount. It does help obviously, but it only does so much. The other problem here is I dropped my wand for the Glimmer Cape. I was holding sentries. I think this was the right choice, but I wasn't very happy to do it basically because the wand is sometimes, it's a difference of 200 mana. So by dropping it, I've actually lost quite a lot here. Like right now, I can't ulti because I don't have a little bit of burst mana. If I had my wand, I probably could have ultied there and maybe gotten a kill. Still use my Midas at least. I mean, I'm pumping out as much mana regen as I can out of my Arcane Aura, but it only does so much basically. I was asking him for Arcanes at this point. More tower gold. I was probably positioned a little too far up there. They don't really have typical initiating heroes like an Earthshaker or a Centaur or something or an Axe, so I guess you don't have to worry as much about positioning this game. I feel like the draft honestly wasn't very good, but my positioning still should have been better there. Just checking to see if Roshan is up. It's not. Again, the sentries are important because Lena could get away or Glimmer Cape somebody. We really don't want that to happen. It's super important. I should probably be power leveling here. I'm not really farming. I'm kind of walking around. I feel like getting the 16 would make a huge difference. So my ultimate does a lot more damage. It does cost much more mana, but...
Radiant's top tower is under attack. Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Just gotta watch for his BKB down. And that's pretty much it. I think I did that fight correctly. Luckily I had that ward down and it spotted them coming from the flank, so we were able to adjust accordingly. But the way that I started was I used the Glimmer Cape. I moved myself into a position where I was very unlikely to get initiated on. And then I Nova'd first, and then you channel your ultimate. It's important that you Nova first, because if you just ultimate and they run outside of it, then you're like, oh, well, that sucks. But if you Nova first, they're slowed by like 30%. It's been nerfed slightly. Oops, I'm sorry. Oh no, it's been nerfed at level 1. It does 50% slow for Nova, and then you get 50% for freezing field, and they're basically stuck in your AoE. I maybe could have casted a little earlier there, but I was basically waiting for their disables to get thrown out before I decided to go in. And we saw Lina go on somebody else. I Glimmer Caped into position. I casted my ultimate. I was invisible for a couple extra seconds after that, and they were pretty much just committed. So I thought that worked out really well. Pretty easy fight there. I probably should have frostbite as well first, but it's not always needed. I think at least getting the Nova off is really important. I basically didn't want to like delay the amount of time that was visible, because the more time I dicked around casting other spells was less time that Glimmer Cape would have been up to help me channel.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
At this point, I didn't really want them to think that I was rushing. I think we can win a rush fight, no problem, but it's important sometimes to make them think that you're not doing that, so instead I went to the mid lane to show myself on farm. So then I give them information, they think like, oh, the CM's over here. If I just stand in the Roche or everybody's missing, then it's a little bit less. You're not always as sure. Glimmer Cape ulti. A little bit of a frostbite, and we get the bear as well. It's a pretty good gank. 300 gold from the bear, and we kill the Undying. Gives us a high chance of just raxing it. My mana's really low now, but whatever. By the way, you can cast Glimmer Cape on you after you're channeling. You can cast it before. I usually do before, but you don't really have to do it in that order. Just Glimmer Cape there to live, which is smart of her. My camera position is a little bit weak here. I should have been keeping my camera a little higher. Waiting for his BKB dance so I can nuke him. My mana's really low here. It's one of the really annoying things about Sinus Man over there. The annoying things about PL is he drains your mana, obviously, but because my aura is level 4 now, I'm actually giving my team a lot. So I feel like I played with this guy another time, because I remember somebody else writing like SF never wins. SF definitely farms very fast, but he's susceptible to ganks. That's something I did this game. So, the game turned out really well for me. This is kind of what my KDs usually look like when my MMR is much higher on the support here. Like if I'm playing line or something, this was one of my better games though. But the important part that won this game was honestly the early roaming. We were losing almost all of our lanes, except for maybe mid, but he did still get solo killed by the SF. We're losing almost all of our lanes, and it's really, really important. You know what I should have done right now is I should have bought a clarity potion. That's probably the best way to increase my mana pool. It's like 170 mana, 50 gold, you know? Late game clarity potions are not the worst. But the ganking part early game was really important. If you don't get those ganks off, then you're not playing your hero right. You shouldn't be picking CM if you're not early game roaming. Obviously heroes like Lion can do it as well, but CM's damage is a lot higher. And she's a lot safer as well. She has a slow and she has a frostbite. One of which is really easy to be AoE. trying to blink here and ulti, but unfortunately the tombstone got me.
Has fallen.
I think I bought a Perseverance here. I should have bought a Clarity, used the Clarity, or a Mango. Could have just bought Mangoes.
Middle tower is under attack.
That was Earthshaker forcing me, that asshole.
Has fallen to the Radiant.
Gave him the Glimmer Cape so he wouldn't die.
Dire's middle tower is under attack. Dire's
I have no
middle
qualms with tower diving like this, by the way. If we already got their racks, like if we got all 3 racks,
under attack.
it's fine. Mana drain, man. I really wanted to ultimate, but I just didn't have enough mana. If I just bought like 4 mangoes, I could have done it though. Just buy mangoes and clarities in the late game in their base. Ugh. Oh, I haven't seen that emote. So that's Crystal Maiden. I think that's how you should play the hero. Some games you get Midas, some games maybe not. I think regardless of the MMR spread, I think that was a good game for Midas just because of the early advantage that we got. It's a pretty fast Midas. It was like 13-14 minutes for support, which I think is good. My GPM was pretty high. I only got 89 creeps there, but the important ones are the first couple. You have to get your early advantage, you have to get your fast boots, and you have to roam with it. Sometimes, I actually didn't buy that much support items. It was mostly Rubik this game. I was playing pretty greedy this game, but I think CM is maybe should be the greedier of the 2 heroes now because their ultimate is so strong. In the past, it was always Rubik. Rubik would get farm preference over CM, but I think in this game it was okay for me to take farm preference on Crystal Maiden. So I think that worked out okay. Again, early roaming, gank the safe lane if they have a solo 1v1 matchup. 1v1 matchups are the best to gank. I don't care where they are. Just move in with an extra support and you can almost kill anybody. It doesn't matter the goal disadvantage. And Razor caught up really nicely despite his early feeds, 8, 6, and 13. Our whole team actually played really well this game, except for the early game Razor stuff. I think he kind of sucked and fed a little bit, but it was okay. Everybody caught up. So really nice team effort there, and the roaming and the mana I'm sure helped. So that's an ideal CM game. Low stuns, very few interrupts, and I can just cast my ultimate and have a nice time. Lots of heroes that I can gank that it's pretty safe ganking. Lone Druid's really easy to gank. Shadow Fiend's really easy to gank. I think those heroes all work. So, alright, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.